Brought to you by...
We all have our demons, some more heavy and haunting than others. Yet, while tormenting as it may be to be faced with, they cannot be ignored forever. Whether they be mistakes we have made, actions that we regret, or decisions that have led to unintended consequences. They hold us back and eat away at our subconscious until we either succumb to them or find the strength to fight back. Hello friends, and welcome back to ETF. After many years of horror films attempting to either defy expectations or go in wildly outlandish directions, by following the A24 format no less, part of me has longed for a return to something much more simple, easily digestible, and wildly enjoyable. This is exactly what I got when I went to check out Round the Decay, a 2025 folk horror creature feature that delves into the dark secrets of Newport's Valley, a seemingly tranquil tourist town harboring a malevolent entity known as the Rexel. The narrative weaves together the lives of various characters, including Kenzie Rhodes, who returns to the town after her fiancé's mysterious death, Bart Blakewell, the new innkeeper striving to uplift the community, and Monroe, a seasoned monster hunter. As these individuals confront the town's hidden horrors, they encounter a legacy of greed and corruption that birthed the monstrous Rexel. Produced under the banner of Dreamscape Productions, with Adam Newman leading the charge as both writer and director, the film doesn't aim to break the mold of those that came before, which honestly, I found delightfully refreshing. What we are presented with here is a pretty standard creature feature. Think films like Feast, though less fuck me swinging balls out, or Dead Birds, without the CGI ghoul faces. Instead, we are invited beneath the dark veil of this town's horrific secret, and introduced into what is basically a feature-length episode of the CW's Supernatural, a show that I personally enjoy very much, complete with its own manifestation of a Dean Winchester archetype. The film is gorgeously captured with stunning cinematography, a well-sculpted color palette, and some of the best day-for-night shots that I have ever seen in an independent film. The picturesque landscapes of New Hampshire served as the primary filming locations, as its natural beauty and historic architecture provided an ideal backdrop for the film's eerie and atmospheric settings of Newport's Valley. What this one was able to do, that I honestly cannot say about most of the genre fare that I subject myself to, is that for at least the first half of the film, as each scene progressed, I was not able to figure out where the story was going from moment to moment. It wasn't abundantly apparent. Much of the time, these things are very easy to predict, but Newman crafted his story in a way that kind of threw things off kilter in the best way possible. He wove his plot with enough threads that it kept me invested in the different characters, the different things happening in different locations. He also utilized flashbacks in a very effective manner, as our protagonist is haunted by the events from her past throughout the film, all of which tie into what is occurring in the present, which provides these breakaways from the current action, and a minor distraction for us as the audience, to keep us from being able to assume what is coming next around every corner. From a psychological perspective, Round the Decay utilizes its monster, a sort of Wendigo-like entity, as a manifestation of communal guilt and the dark undercurrents of small-town life. The Rexel is not just a physical threat, but a symbol of the suppressed fears and moral decay within Newport's Valley. The Rexel's origins, tied to the town's history of greed and corruption, highlight how communities can create their own demons through collective wrongdoing. This entity becomes a literal representation of the town's darkest secrets. The monster's emergence suggests that ignored and buried transgressions can manifest into tangible threats, feeding off the community's unwillingness to confront its own past. Kenzie Rhodes' return to the town following her fiancé's death parallels her journey through grief and isolation. Her encounter with the Rexel can be seen as her internal struggle, a battle against the encroaching darkness of her loss. In psychological terms, the Rexel represents intrusive thoughts and unresolved traumas that surface when least expected. Bart Blakewell, as the innkeeper attempting to uplift the town, symbolizes the facade of normalcy that communities often maintain. His contact with the Rexel reflects the challenge of addressing collective denial. Bart's role explores the psychological burden of responsibility, how individuals can become the scapegoats for a community's failure to address its own issues. Monroe, the monster hunter, embodies the confrontation with the unknown. His role explores how individuals cope with fear, through preparation, denial, or confrontation. The Rexel in this context serves as a Jungian shadow, representing the aspects of human nature that people refuse to acknowledge, but are compelled to face. The film's title, Round the Decay, hints at the cyclical nature of corruption, how moral decay perpetuates itself within a community. The Rexel is a byproduct of this cycle, a monster born from the repeated failures of the town's leaders and citizens. From this psychological standpoint, this theme explores how destructive behaviors and corrupt practices can become normalized, leading to a culture of silence and complicity. Rachel Pizzolatto's portrayal of the Rexel blurs the line between human and monster, suggesting that the creature may have once been human or possess human traits. This ambiguity raises questions about identity and transformation, how the environment and collective sins can morph someone into a monster. It's a reflection of how extreme circumstances or unchecked emotions can alter an individual's psyche. The film's blend of dark comedy and horror serves as a form of catharsis, allowing viewers to confront their own suppressed fears in a controlled environment. By externalizing these fears through the Rexel, the audience is encouraged to reflect on their own inner monsters, and the communal issues they may ignore in their own lives. For me, this was a creature feature that went out of its way to operate on multiple levels, not just as a creature feature in the way that we know them, but as a meditation on how we create and sustain our own monsters, both literally and psychologically. The film explores how unresolved guilt, denial, and personal trauma can manifest into something monstrous, both on an individual and collective scale. At the heart of this film is the Rexel, a terrifying, all-consuming entity that isn't just an external threat, but a manifestation of the town's hidden sins. It represents the monsters of their own making, an embodiment of past greed, corruption, and moral failings. This aligns with psychological theories of repression, particularly Carl Jung's concept of the shadow self, the dark aspect of the psyche that people refuse to acknowledge. By ignoring the consequences of their actions, Newport's Valley has unknowingly created something that festers beneath the surface, growing stronger the longer it is denied. The more the townspeople try to bury the past, the more powerful the Rexel becomes, reinforcing the idea that our fears and guilt don't disappear when ignored. They just grow hungrier. Kenzie's arc is a clear example of how personal grief, when left unchecked, becomes a kind of monster in and of itself. As I said, she returns to the town after the unexplained death of her fiancé, carrying emotional wounds that she has yet to confront. As she investigates, she isn't just uncovering town secrets, she's peeling back her own psychological barriers. The deeper she goes, the more she realizes that avoiding the truth has only allowed the horror to thrive. Kenzie's journey mirrors the idea that personal demons cannot be outrun. They must be faced head-on. The film's horror elements externalize this struggle, making it literal. The monster is real, and its power over her is proportional to her unwillingness to confront the past. Bart, the new innkeeper, enters the town with the hope of revitalization, but his optimism is misguided. He represents those who choose denial over confrontation, believing that if they ignore the problem, it will resolve itself. His arc follows the painful realization that avoiding the town's history and focusing only on the present doesn't make the past go away. It makes its consequences inevitable. Bart's reluctance to acknowledge the growing horror reflects a common psychological defense mechanism: repression. But as in real life, ignoring trauma only allows it to return in more destructive ways. His eventual reckoning with the Rexel serves as an allegory for breaking through self-deception and seeing things for what they truly are. Monroe, the seasoned monster hunter, is unique because he actively seeks out the beast. However, his obsession with destroying the Rexel suggests a personal battle, one where the monster represents something deeply tied to his own past. Throughout horror fiction, the idea of the monster hunter becoming like the monster that they hunt is very common. It can be found in things like Moby Dick and Heart of Darkness, and Round the Decay plays with this theme. Monroe's need to eradicate the Rexel may not just be about saving the town. It may be about defeating something within himself. This taps into the Freudian concept of projection, where people externalize their own internal conflicts onto something else. This struggle with the monster is as much a fight against an external entity as it is a battle against his own personal demons, or perhaps faults. There was something small about his character that I noticed throughout the film. I'm not sure if it's something that I was just picking up on that doesn't really exist, but I almost got the feeling that maybe he wasn't who he said he was. Maybe he wasn't the great monster hunter that the townspeople seemed to think he was. It was in his reactions to the way they praised him that made me think that maybe he was a fraud of some kind. Sure, he may have been a monster hunter to a degree, but as the film went on, it seemed more like he was as inexperienced as many of the others, but masking it behind a facade. This could be just me blowing smoke. Read into it what you will. The film's resolution reinforces its central theme. The only way to defeat a monster of your own making is to confront it. The Rexel isn't vanquished through avoidance or mere physical force. It is weakened when the truth is finally acknowledged. This suggests that horror, both literal and psychological, thrives in the shadows, but loses power when dragged into the light. By the time Kenzie and the others finally face the Rexel, they are no longer running from it. They are running towards it. This shift represents psychological healing. True resolution comes not from escape, but from direct engagement with what one fears. At its core, Round the Decay is about the dangers of refusing to face the monsters we create, whether they be supernatural or psychological. The Rexel is not just a creature. It is a symbol of unresolved guilt, fear, and denial. Each character, in their own way, must grapple with the idea that their worst enemy is not the beast itself, but their own reluctance to confront the truth. The film's horror is effective because it taps into something deeply human, the knowledge that we are often the architects of our own nightmares, and the only way to escape them is to simply stop running. Well, friends, that's going to be all for now. I got the chance to see this film during its theatrical run. If this is still in theaters, I urge you to go catch a screening. Check your local listings. At the time of recording this, I don't know when it'll be available on streaming or on Blu-ray, but as soon as it is, I will link a physical copy down below, so that you can support physical media and indie filmmaking by adding it to your collection. This was probably one of the most fun monster movies that I have seen in many years, and I definitely think that you are going to want to check it out. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe for more content, help us get those watch hours up, and until the next one, stay safe, If the Rexel is nearby, don't fucking move. And as always, thanks for watching.